Hey, welcome back to YT Finance, and this is the channel where I went to business school so you didn't have to, and today we are talking about Palantir Technologies PLTR stock and why it has even more upside left in it, because lately the stock has been trending upward very impressively. We're also going to be going over the latest stock news for Palantir Technologies, we're going to be going over the various PLTR stock price predictions, we're also going to be talking about how analysts are increasing their average price consensus for the PLTR stock, we will perform our own stock analysis based off of their free cash flows, and we are going to talk about Palantir's earnings. So right now, Palantir Technologies PLTR stock, which is a big data and analytics company that serves both commercial as well as government clients, sits at around $13.24, and today it's up around 5.16%, which is amazing. However, in the last 5 days, we can see that the stock has actually trended upwards around 20%, and in the last month, that has even increased more to see a fantastic growth trajectory of around 26% in total from their lows in the last month, which would be over here and here. This is because Palantir is pricing in the new interest rate hikes as well as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. However, we have even more positive developments than this, and I'm gonna first talk about their earnings. So right now, Wall Street analysts actually project that Palantir Technologies in their upcoming earnings report is going to post around 4 cents positive per share, which is going to meet analysts' expectations. And this overall is a very positive sign because it shows that Palantir Technologies is bringing in positive EPS or earnings per share on a non-GAAP basis. However, the problem is that Palantir Technologies is currently trading at a forward price-to-earnings ratio of around 64.91, which is above their industry's average, which comes in at a PE ratio of around 22.67, which means that we are still paying a slight premium for Palantir Technologies. However, after I go into detail, you will see why I think that's actually okay to pay a little extra for Palantir Technologies right now. Now, traditionally, we have price targets from analysts that range anywhere from $9 per share on the low end for the next 12 months, all the way up to $25 on the high end for the next 12 months, which would make the price consensus give or take around $15, while the current stock price is trading at around $13. Other sources say that the average consensus price targets among professionals is around $13.75, which means that Palantir Technologies is right now fairly valued according to the article, but I'm actually going to argue against this. So although it can be argued that Palantir is close to being fully priced in at the moment, there is still great potential upside for long-term investors into this company due to their future trajectory and their overall growth, which could be a very attractive buying opportunity. We also know that from a previous earnings report that Palantir Technologies is supposed to grow their revenue at a CAGR or compounding annual growth rate of 30% or more from now until 2025. So we actually have to price in this growth rate for Palantir Technologies so we can usher in a proper price target. I also want to highlight that the revenues that Palantir Technologies is anticipated to bring in is around $443 million worth of revenue, which is actually going to beat their revenue year over year from the first quarter of 2021, where they brought in around $341 million. This would represent around 29.91%, which perfectly aligns with management's projections. So now that we know that this projection is actually solid and fundamentally based, we can use this projection to actually understand and estimate a proper price target for Palantir Technologies. Now, I do want to add that Palantir Technologies is not a profitable company on a GAAP basis. However, like I said previously, they are bringing in positive EPS on a non-GAAP basis. But even with that being said, Palantir Technologies as a company and their PLTR stock price is headed in the right direction right now. I also want to mention how the company has cut their net losses very dramatically. Back in 2020, they had a net loss of $1.166 billion, which they cut down to only $520 million for 2021. Now, some investors were scared that the rising interest rates were going to even increase their potential losses because these rising interest rates are going to shake the economy. But luckily, Chris McDonald actually says, and I quote, that rising interest rates by definition increase the discount rate used to evaluate stocks. For companies with a greater proportion of their earnings coming from years out in the future, discounting those earnings back to present day provides a much smaller value using a higher discount rate. And this is actually why we are seeing how Palantir's price is actually rising in spite or despite of the rising interest rates. Their rising PLTR stock price is also attributed to their break-even point and eventually them achieving a profitability, and I talked more about that in the last video, but the main quote I want to get from last video is that the consensus from 11 of the American software analysts is that Palantir Technologies is on the verge of break-even, and break-even is defined as the point where Palantir Technologies is going to become profitable after they break even. The quote goes on by saying, they anticipate the company to incur a final loss in 2023 before generating positive profits of $52 million in 2024. Therefore, the company is expected to break even roughly 2 years from now, end quote. And this is phenomenal news for the overall company, and this news should really excite Palantir stockholders and investors because Palantir is so close to their break-even point. They can also move their break-even point up even further by decreasing their stock-based compensation program. However, despite their SBC program, the company is still going to become profitable. What many investors also don't realize is a lot of growth companies, such as Palantir Technologies, carry a lot of debts. However, Palantir Technologies is unique in the fact that they basically carry no debt at all, virtually no debt on their balance sheet, which makes them an extremely safe investment opportunity, especially if you are a long-term investor, which means that investors that are willing to hold this for the long term of 5 to 10 years and they're willing to play the long game with Palantir should be rewarded very handsomely due to the company's very bright future. And if the company is set to do very well in the future, their stock price is set to follow that trend. Although their stock price can be disconnected from the fundamentals and even the performance of the overall company, Palantir Technologies is going to be a good long-term investment in my personal opinion. However, the pros and cons do need to be weighed and multiple factors need to be taken into consideration, including what type of investor you are personally. For instance, I would never let a single stock such as Palantir Technologies make up more than 5% of my overall investment allocation in regards to the capital that I have attributed to my overall investments in that portfolio. Now, what I really want to highlight in this video is their free cash flow, which is what I personally use to dictate if a company is good or not fundamentally and financially. So first we need to start off with what their adjusted operating margin is, because like we said earlier in the video, we know that their revenues are going to come in at around $443 million for the quarter, and we can use their adjusted operating margin of around 23% to calculate the metrics that we need to get a proper price target. But the really good thing about this is that Palantir is actually projected to raise their operating margin, which is a good thing, up to 27% in 2022. So clearly Palantir Technologies is becoming even more efficient. So now I want to talk about estimating their free cash flow. So analysts currently forecast the sales for 2022 for the entire year to be around $2 billion. And for 2023, their total revenues are supposed to come in at around $2.58 billion. And just like what the first quote said earlier about their discounted rate based on the increasing interest rates, we actually can use around a 10% discount rate to calculate the present value of their 2023 revenues, which would equate to around $2.132 billion. Also, if we assume that their free cash flow margins will be equal to their operating profit margins of 27%, the free cash flow for 2023 will be around $575.6 million. Lastly, we need to calculate the overall market cap or market value of Palantir Technologies by using an FCF multiple of 50, which actually equates to 2%. And from this financial data and projections, we can derive a very fair price target for the PLTR stock, and all we have to do is multiply the free cash flows of $576 million by 50, and we get a market cap or a market capitalization target of $28.8 billion. Therefore, Palantir's current price target, or actually fair value estimate, is supposed to be around $14.19 based on these assumptions. Right now, they currently have a market cap of around $25.559 billion, which means that we have over a 12% upside opportunity from the stock's current price. I also want to add that these are very conservative and low-end price targets because it's possible that their FCF or free cash flows are actually going to come in higher than the metrics and the assumptions that we are using in this calculation. However, despite that, even if we use our most conservative price target, there is still good upside opportunity for the PLTR stock this year, and of course there is a massive upside opportunity for long-term holders in Palantir Technologies. I personally think that the inflection point is going to be when this company becomes profitable, so I think that the year of 2024 and 2023 is going to represent a fantastic inflection point for the PLTR stock price, and that's when we're going to start seeing the stock price trend up very dramatically, because now we have a rapidly growing company that is profitable, and from there they're just going to continue to scale, especially as they open up and land more contracts over on their commercial segment, which I still believe is going to eventually overtake their government segment. Even though their government segment has a fantastic moat, they're going to expand their moat over in the commercial segment. So in summary, if we bring all of this together, we see that the PLTR stock has good upside opportunity within the year of 2022, and in the year of 2023 and 2024, we're going to see a fantastic inflection point in the PLTR stock price, mainly drawn from their ability to now generate profits at that time, on top of fantastic revenue generation and a 30% compounding annual growth rate for the revenue until 2025. So if you are willing to hold the PLTR stock regardless of the stock price until 2025, this could be a fantastic stock for you to own. However, if you don't want to wait that long and you actually find a better opportunity cost in another stock, or you like to trade stocks, maybe this stock is not going to be for you. But I would love to hear your price targets and your thoughts about Palantir Technologies down below. Remember to smash that like button right now, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you in the next YT video.